Welcome back. We're here with Richard Burdick for session 12 of our numismatic interview. Uh, let's talk a little bit about a major collection that you helped build and sell, the Foxfire Collection.
Well, I actually, that collection got started actually in the early 1970s. But we really didn't go really try to finish it off in high end quality till the early 1990s. And there were a few coins in the collection that did not need to be upgraded, but the vast majority did. And I knew I was at a sale, stack sale, 1990, and there was a collection called the LA Type Set. There was many magnificent coins, and I went to New York, looked at it, and two of my favorite coins in there were the 1795 half dollar and dollar. And I had little money to spend, but I couldn't buy those kind of coins. And the guy that bought the half dollar was sitting right next to me, and he was an employee of Eddie Milas. The coin sold for $100,000. Well, several years later, the coin market took quite a dip after the fall of 1990. And I knew Eddie Milas had been trying to sell that half dollar and wasn't successful. And I called him up and asked him if he still had it. Yes. And I said, bring it to the Baltimore Coin Show. I looked at it, and it's even nicer than I remembered. And Eddie says, I said, how much? He says, well, I paid $100,000 for it. I said, I know that, but the coin market's gotten much weaker. And he says, well, what can you get me for it? And I said, well, I don't know. I got to take it and show it to the guy. And I did. And Dr. Davis really fell in love with this coin. It's a very unusual eye appeal. It's got luster that I've never seen before on any other coin, both sides, and struck like a moose. Every single little feather on the breast, you can see it. No adjustment marks. So I showed it to Dr. Davis, and I told her, I said, the guy paid $100,000 for this coin. Of course, Dr. Davis didn't want to pay that, but he said, I'll pay $90,000, and you can make a couple $1,000s off the deal, which was fine. And so I called up Eddie on the phone. I said, I got $90,000 for your coin, and he about dropped the phone. He says, well, I would have sold it for a lot less than that, but I said, that's what I got for it. And he said, Dr. Davis didn't let you make very much money off that coin, did he? I said, no, he didn't. He said, well, let me give you $5,000 on the backside just for selling that coin. And that was one of the very first coins we put in that Foxfire collection. And it really started after that. Really special coins. And they're hard to find. And one of the next coins, God, it's so long ago, it's hard to. There's so many coins went into that collection. Well, here's on the cover of this book that I wrote about the Foxfire Collection is one of my all-time favorite American coins. This coin is legendary, and I first saw it back in the early 1970s. Actually, it was owned by a gentleman from Rochester, New York. He was a friend of John Pittman's, I found out later. Leland Rogers was his name. Leland and his wife were both collectors. They did this together, and they exhibited their coins. Pennsylvania, Ohio, Indiana, Michigan state shows, New York City. I mean, these people were just dyed-in-the-wool collectors. And they didn't have a lot of coins, but what they had was really nice. And Leland told me the story about this coin. He had bought it in 1968. Actually, John Pittman told him about this coin. I think he even told him who owned it. And once Leland had that information, the man who owned it, his last name I think was Curtis, And he died, and he left it to his sisters. And once Leland found out that they had the coin, they lived in Washington, D.C. He was made up his mind. He talked to him on the phone, and they told him they wanted $25,000 for this coin. No, it was two coins, the 1796 and the 97 half dollar. It was the pair, $25,000.
That's a lot of money in 1968.
Well, no, that's what he paid for it. That's what they wanted. They knew they had something good. He knew it was good, and he mortgaged his dairy farm, and got a sack full of cash. Drove to Washington, went up to the front door. They talked about it. He took the coins. They took the money, and that's how he got them.
Wow.
And I mean, he literally mortgaged his dairy farm to do this. He was so fixed on having that. But he knew what they were. He knew how rare they were, and he'd never get another opportunity like this. That's why he did it. So I didn't meet Leland I didn't meet him till about 1973 or 4. Let's see. No, actually, it was 1971. I was doing non-competitive exhibiting at Central State shows and Michigan State shows, and I just set up an exhibit for people to look at. I got tired of doing competitive exhibiting. It's more fun if you just do it non-competitive. So Leland was do the same thing, but Leland had gem on $1794. He had the 1797 half dollar. You know, the finest known 1796 quarter eagle, coins like that. And often, well, even when him and I were both doing competitive exhibits, I mean, Leland he just expected he's supposed to win because he's got all these. But I did a lot of artwork and background information, history, stuff like that. So when you're doing competitive exhibiting, the judges give you extra points for that. And Leland didn't do any of that. And I get a best of show or a first place trophy in U.S. coins. He couldn't understand why he didn't get it. I mean, often he did, a People's Choice, and his coins were just monstrous coins. So anyways, I'd see him periodically, throughout the 1970s. And after 1979, I just never saw him again. I never knew what happened to him. But I never forgot that 97 half dollar. In fact, Jimmy Hayes, him and I would run into each other at shows all through the 1970s, and our conversation would always come back to that 1796 and $7.5. As Jimmy wanted the 96 for his typeset. He only did first year of issue. So I didn't see Leon I hadn't seen him in many years. I was sitting at Jim McGuigan's table one day, and he was showing somebody a copper coin, and Jimmy said, this coin came from the Leland Rogers collection. My ears perked right up. I didn't know if he was still alive. So I asked Jimmy, about that. He says, well, I bought it from Jonathan Kern. I race over to Jonathan Kern's table, and, inquisitive and about Leland Rogers. He says, I want to buy the rest of the coins. I can't tell you. And I said, oh, please, Jonathan. He says, I'll tell you this. He lives on the Gold Coast in Florida. Well, that's all I needed. I went over to a payphone and called the information operator in Jacksonville, and we just worked our way through the phone book. We had to Palm Beach. Here's his name. Leland Rogers Sr., Leland Rogers Jr. So I called him up. Guy answers the phone, and I asked for Leland Rogers, and he says, well, he can't talk right now. And I said, look, I'm an old friend of your mom and dad's, da-da-da-da-da. And he finally says, well, look, my father's ill. He's sitting here at the table with me, and he can't really communicate with you. And I said, look, I want to buy that 1797 half dollar. And he says, well, we probably wouldn't sell them unless we sell the pair. And we do have other, I says, I know you've got some magnificent coins. And I'm trying to think what I was authorized to pay a certain price for it at this time. I think it was $300,000 for just 97. And I'd throw it another 200,000 if I had to buy the pair. I was thinking that myself. I said, I think I can get you 475,000 for the pair. He said, oh my. He said, there's other people we know that know we have these. We've never been offered over 250,000. He says, that's a serious offer. I said, well, I mean it. I'll come down there and look at the coins and we'll send you a bank wire. It'll be that easy. He says, let me think about it. Call me back in a month. I called him back in a month. He says, we still haven't made up our mind what we're going to do yet. So I called him back a month later, and he said, Richard, he said, I hate to tell you this, but we just got back from New York about 3 days ago, and we could sign the coins to stacks. Yeah. All the good coins at $94. That's in the 66 holder, by the way. So anyways, I go back. I tell Dr. Davis, he says, well, we're going to New York. He said, I want to see these coins again. So Dr. Davis, we flew to New York. We went to Stacks, and they knew what we were after. Harvey waits on us. And Dr. Davis looks at these coins, and I can tell by the way he's looking at these that he's all over these things. You can't get better than this.
Right.
So we went back to the hotel room, and he says, Rick, we're going to buy those coins. And I said, we don't need both coins. We only need the 97. It's the best one of the two. We only need one coin for your typeset. And we just don't need to use up that much capital. We don't need both of them. He says, well, I want both of them. Those two coins have been together for many, many years, even before. There's a pedigree on the back to 1930s or 40s. Might even be earlier than that by now. All the research people do. So anyway, Dr. Davis gave me a whole pile of coins. He said, I want you to sell these. We're going to build up a war chest to buy these coins. And he gave me a magnificent set of bust halves. A lot of AU gems. Beautiful coins. And I think he bought that as a collector. He might have bought that set from Bird Sailor, actually. Because they were friends, and he bought a number of coins from Sailor. Oh my God, there was a complete set of seated quarters with the 73 no arrow CC.
Oh wow.
He paid. It was a new discovery, like in very fine, and the guy bought it for like nothing, and I knew who he was, and I told Dr. Davis about it, and there was a big show coming up, and this dealer, I think he was from Seattle, and Dr. Davis went up, and I mean, it was the only hole in his book. He always wanted to complete that set of seated quarters. The guy wanted $100,000 for it, and Doctor says, I'll give you 50 right now. The guy took it. So that now his set's complete, but what I'm getting at is he gave me the whole set of seated quarters, complete set of seated $50, the bust $50, complete set of seated dimes without, what's the 73 no arrow CC? That's a unique coin. Of course, we didn't have that one, but there's a pretty decent set of coins. I mean, they're all like from fine up to gem-unk. But it didn't take that long to liquidate that group of coins. So anyways, we go to the auction, and I'd never seen Dr. Davis. He was giddy. He's about to spend a lot of money. He's going to give it a try. He's really serious.
He's up against some serious people for that coin.
Yeah, well, this guy's name was Jay Perino. So Dr. Davis said, we sat right at the front left side. The auctioneer's right there. And he kept saying, I want both of them. I said, Doc, don't buy both of these coins. You're going to bid this first one up, which you don't really need. You're going to use up a money that you don't really need.
You're
to
going to make the
spend.
second one cost more because
Exactly,
the first one
and that's
trades
exactly
for too much.
that's exactly what I told him. So they start with a 96, and he bid it up to almost 300,000. I actually tried to pull his arm down, and so he stopped. And he told me before the auction he was not going to spend over 450 for the pair.
Oh,
That's what he said, and he meant it. That's it. So the 97 starts off, and it flew past 300,000. It flew past 400,000, and I turned around. I knew we were bidding against Jay Perino. This is a serious problem. And we finally got the coin for $517,000. And I went over to, after the auction, I went over to talk to Perino about it. I said, "Why did you bid us up that much?" He says, "Well, I was going to pay a lot more. I just felt sorry for Doc. I let him have it." That's what he told me.
let him have it for $500,000.
Well, that's what he told me. So once we got that coin, I mean, this got his juices flowing because he knew that's the most difficult silver type coin to get in gem. There's only 3, and the Norway coin was one. I knew where that coin was at. I'd met this guy at Long Beach. He was a doctor from one of the wealthy suburbs of San Diego. I forgot I can't remember the name of the town. It's a very famous area northwest of San Diego. And I had actually made 2 different trips to see that doctor. Because I saw him buy it at the Norweb sale, and he paid, almost $200,000 for that coin back in 1988. And I went there, and he just wouldn't sell a coin. I mean, I offered him, the first price I think was $300,000. I went back a second time, and I offered $350, and then I offered $375. He just wouldn't sell a coin. So, anyways, after that 97 half dollar, I just kept finding just the best I could find.
Right.
And this went on through about 2002.
All right. Well, we'll talk more about some more of those stories in our next session.
Okay.